I want to thank everybody that came out today for the work party, and that knocked out the deck and everything. It's like I said, spectacular. Thank you guys for all the hard work. And the hard work last weekend on top of that. Let's see, it is our November meeting. It's our our last meeting will be at Bruce's house, which will be an eat and greet there. I'm gonna make it
potluck.
It'll be potluck, and you'll probably get the emails on it, on what you want to bring and provide and everything for out there. And Bruce will get you all set up on that. It'll be sent out soon. And once again, I'm Chris Tody. This will be the last time y'all get to see me as president, basically. Thank y'all once again. I appreciate y'all tolerating me for the past year and the previous years as vice president. Either way, it's been a real big privilege. But moving right along, we're going to have, well, let me step back one second there and state, is anybody working on any programs that they want to talk about when it comes to observing or anything that y'all are working with at this moment? I was talking about if anybody's working on any of the observing programs right now, any of the group.
I am, but not there yet. I'm doing the globular cluster program.
All right. And is that moving along slowly but surely, or are you having fun, or
all of the above?
All right.
Well, done the easy ones.
Well, thank you, David. And we look forward to hearing more about that. Carl Schultz has just completed the Caldwell list. All right. Well, congratulations on that. And do we have any other announcements of people working on anything right now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got it now. Okay. Yes, it sounds. Can you hear me?
I brought a guest, Cindy Hegel here.
What do you think?
List. Hear me now? Sorry, we had some batteries just went dead here. All right, moving right along as usual. We always have at least 1 or 2 or 5 glitches. Covered all that, and our first group that's going to come up and do a little talk for us is going to be Darcy and Carl. Would you all like to come up and start your presentation?
I'll talk and Carl remind me all the other things I need to say to you. I'm Darcy Howard. I work with the Eclipse like this, and so does Carl. Together we are NASA partner Eclipse ambassadors, and we like to talk Eclipse. And we went to Texas to see the annular eclipse, and that's what we're. Okay, how do we start the slideshow?
Let's all go there. When you going?
Yeah, we win. It was wonderful. Okay. One lunation ago, 1 month ago, annular eclipse. And how many of you saw it? How many saw the partial eclipse or the annular eclipse?
I didn't see that. I just saw.
Uh-huh. It's a partial eclipse is interesting. An annular eclipse is really interesting. And we're going to tell you just a brief thing about what we did. Okay, it's a long ways. There, a long ways from here to Texas. And so we want to make the most out of it. And when you're traveling to go someplace, put on your car window what you're going to do. And you'll meet people that way. Okay, McDonald Observatory. It's just the other side of where the path of annularity was. So like Carl said, we wanted to make the most of it. And that's was part of our trip. Yeah. 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 We went to Abilene the first day and then to Pecos the second day. It's a long way, no matter how you measure it. This is a Texas Welcome Center. There were people from Ohio there headed for the eclipse, and we shared taking pictures with each other. We went to McDonald Observatory. It was a wonderful trip. If you haven't been there and you're in West Texas, stop by. This is this is a very not young moon, but a almost new moon. 29.5 hours until new moon. And it's a sport thing, seeing these young moons. If you can get one under 30 hours, you're doing well. What's your records? I broke 30 hours on this one. Jim broke your record, didn't you? Can you see it? Who has 19? Oh, wow, that's good. That's good. Can you see the moon there? And in the inset, you'll see just a tiny thumbnail in there. Okay. Okay. The moon has phases, and it goes in a cycle over 29 and a half days. And the new moon is essentially no moon. It's the dark of the moon when the moon is close to the sun and all of the sunlight is shining on the backside of the moon from us. And so the man in the moon is having a nice long sleep while it's dark. And then the next day it'll be a tiny crescent. The next day it'll be enough crescent that you can see. But it's really a challenge to look at a place that's so bright and try to find something so faint. That was Friday morning before the eclipse. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, Midland, Texas, there's not much there. It's a good place if you're a petroleum geologist, but the sky is big. The horizons are flat, not many trees, and it's good sky gazing. Chris apologized, said we can't drop that off, but okay. We're going to talk more about eclipse stuff in March, but for now, practice your observing setup before you go to April's eclipse. And because, like Chris says, something always goes wrong. Yes, he's right. Something always goes wrong. Yeah, we've got a better view of that in a minute, but some things, these are just some key points that we did that we want to share with you. Arrive early. We've got to meet the dog walkers. Dog walkers were important people. Or is there a sprinkler system? Is there a soccer game going to be going on? All these things that we didn't know. We had never been to this place before. My college astronomy buddy lives 3 blocks from it. So that's why we chose this site. Well, there's 3 of us. This is Carl's. You talk, Carl.
6-inch reflector on Criterion. That's been with me to every eclipse. So that's projected image. Darcy mounted a padded beer there. You can see back if you look at it. What proud stuff to do it. Set the monitor and a digital clock. So when you took a picture of that, you knew what it was and what time of day it was. And the first thing happened was the wind blew it over. So her friend Garland walks back to his house and looks for weights and so we had a lot of people questioning. What's the secret about the charcoal? You know, it was just holding that down. Had a camera set back here that keep the heat out of it and a towel across it.
It was chilly and breezy and bright and sunny. This was my setup. I did the Annular Eclipse challenge through the Astronomical League. That's what I'll talk about next year. I have a triangular sunspotter telescope. I had my iPad for timing with Zulu time. One of the things you need to know if you're doing solar observing, you can't see your screen in bright sunlight. Make a way to account for that. I put my my weather station instruments inside a black bag so I could see it. Now, oh, that's my weather station on top of. That's another story. No, we don't. We asked our friend Garland. Garland, you have a table? No. Okay, we brought a table. Garland, you have a ladder with flat top? Yes. Okay, got there. Said, Garland, can you take the ladder down to the park in the morning? No, it won't fit in my vehicle. practice all these things. Okay, here's Jim's setup. Jim, you want to say, or you want me to tell him what? Okay, he has a 5-inch Matsukov telescope on a Nexstar tracking mount. Is that right? He's got a DSLR mounted on the side with a homemade filter, and you need to talk to Jim about that because he's really good at figuring out all of these things. And off to the side, he had a stationary camera with an 18mm lens. He was doing stationary tracking at 5-minute intervals for a composite photograph, and you'll see that at the end. And he was bracketing his photos through his larger telescope, bracketing 3 at 75-second intervals, and he put that together in an amazing video. We'll see that too. And it was all automated. He's so smart. Our Midland friends came, and it was a small group to start with. And that was nice because we didn't want to be in a crowd. The University of Texas had a big thing at the university with a gazillion people, and we didn't want to be part of that. We wanted our quiet. So this is first contact. Can you see the little bitty place? And this is one thing you need to look ahead of time so you know where it's going to happen and you won't miss it.
Wow.
Uh-huh. There were just a few sunspots. They were not particularly remarkable, but we looked at them and said, "Ooh, wonder when the shadow's going to get there." Then the local people, the dog walkers, they went back home, say they're setting up over in the park to watch the eclipse. And they came over and said, "Can we watch it with you?" And we said, "Well, sure, come on." And so they brought their lawn chairs, and they were really interesting people, fun to talk with. They wanted to learn what we were doing. And so we have this message board with pinholes to project images of the sun. And we were showing that, and we just gave that to them. Said, "Here, y'all play with this," while we were doing the things that we needed to do. And they really enjoyed that. There were a lot of pictures taken of this. And then when we realized that these people wanted to learn more, we recruited them to help us with the things we were looking for. Venus was one of them. We knew what part of the sky it was going to be in. We didn't know what time we would get to see it. And so when we heard somebody say Venus, well, everybody started looking. And what you do, they're not just raising their hand, because I know you have to block the sun with one hand and look with the other, and probably have your phone taking your picture with the other hand too. But this was great. We saw it at 11:30. This is 6 minutes before annularity. And it's an interesting sight. Now, the crescent shadows were amazing because these are different than what you're going to see during totality because of the shape of the crescent. And these almost appeared 3D. This is me taking a picture on the sidewalk, and it was just lovely. And the people came running over and said, "Yeah," I said, "You got to come look at this." And, oh, wow, I'm glad they came and got me. Carl is fascinated with colanders and pinholes. And this is a projected image on a paper plate. He's not holding up a colander, and the blue colander is the real colander, and the image almost looks 3D from that. And look at the direction of the eclipsed part is down in this image. Pay attention. Remember that part. Yeah, the moon's on the bottom part of that image. And this was when Jim Dixon came running over and said, "There's something weird about the light." I don't remember exactly what he said, but something like that. This is not an out of focus picture. This is a bizarre phenomenon that happens with it's almost like having two light sources. But this direction was short and skinny. This way was fat and blurred. Okay, here is annularity. And this is the image seared in our minds from watching it. And somebody turned on their phone with Johnny Cash playing his song, Ring of Fire, and that was good. And this is my favorite picture. This is what happens to the pinholes. They became Cheerios. Said, I really like this one. He didn't think it would happen. And this is interesting. When it breaks up on a total eclipse, you'll get Bailey's beads. These are tiny areas along the edge of the moon's surface that are interrupting the sunlight. And that's a very fleeting thing that happens. Here's the horns of the crescent. You will not see this during a total eclipse. Now, look at the shape of the cup, the crescents. The moon shadow is on the upside down. It reverses, and everything's a mirror image when it finishes from the way it starts. And as soon as the annular part was over, crowd left. And that's going to happen during the total eclipses. Okay, it's over. Let's go. And that's what causes the giant traffic jams. But we didn't find all very. Nah, we weren't. Wasn't anything about us. Here it is, almost over. That's it took almost 3 hours. And it was a good day. And Carl pulled out his flag. Here it is. Texas flag, Arkansas flag on Texas soil. How's that? And I love the Texans too. My mom was one. But they were kind, they were friendly, they asked good questions, they welcomed us. And Carl and I got to go back to our friend's house. Jim went home all the way back to Little Rock after this whole day of doing this. This is the pictures that he took 5 minutes apart together as and I am impressed. And he had his camera pointed at just the right place in the sky. Now that's an amazing fact. It's a big sky out there. But here's the video. Watch this. There's no corona. You don't see a corona. And Jim did a great job. And this was really interesting, but you just wait till April of next year. And I am finished. What I forget to talk about.
Saw lots of oil wells, that's for sure. And then the salt brine, that was probably processing a lot of water out there. Yeah, the electric generator. We also the old-fashioned windmills. Darcy likes the old-fashioned one, so we'd be riding along. She'd be windmill. She wasn't talking about the generating electricity, just pumping water.
Yeah. When you do that.
Yeah, I thought Lee was going to go next. No.
We're good. ahead. That's delayed. Thanks, boss.
Okay, we've got over 100 club members in this society, and an awful lot of them are aspiring observers. They're going to start observing, but they never quite make it. And there's nothing wrong with being an armchair astronomer. But from the club standpoint, we'd like to get more of our members out and active under the stars. There are a lot of impediments people have, a lot of roadblocks, and we're going to talk about those. One of them is they think they've got to have a telescope, and you don't have to have a telescope. Some of the most rewarding times I have as an observer is with my eyes, just my eyes and my ears. It's a soul cleansing experience to be out here or under the dark sky anywhere. When Chuck Will's Widow is playing, the tree frogs are sounding, maybe there's a coyote in the distance. That's a soul cleansing experience. A lot more fun than the telescope, to tell you the truth. But a lot of people think they've got to have a telescope, and they have a telescope, but where is that telescope? It's in the attic, it's in the closet, it's in the basement, or they don't even know where it is. There's some intimidation involved. They just can't quite get around to it. Telescopes and boats share that in common. They're acquired with good intent and then oft neglected. So we're going to talk, or I'm going to talk here, and my goal, frankly, is to lay the seed, the groundwork for some New Year's resolutions for our armchair observing members, our armchair astronomer members, to get out and to become active observers. And so we're going to talk about some of the impediments and how to get around them, how to deal with them. So the first one is education. Now, why have I got this first? What happened to my first slide? Resolution. There we go. How did that happen? The first step is resolution. You got to decide to do it. You got to have that New Year's resolution. Impediments that must be overcome to develop that resolution. One of the first ones is the realization that you can't just do this on Saturday night. If you set out to be an observer and you're ever only going to go out on Saturday night, this is what happens. First of all, there are only 52 of those in the year. Half of those, the moon is out. So if you're really wanting to do the stars, you want a moonless night. So now you're down to 26. Then you got the weather, right? That's going to knock two out of three out. So you're down to 8. under 9. And and then there's weddings and birthdays and gutters to be cleaned and so forth and so on. And pretty soon you end up with 0 nights in the course of a year. And I think that's where most of our armchair astronomers are coming from. So you've got to decide that you can't just do this on Saturday night. And by the way, you can actually, it's a ways drive out here. And you don't have to come out here. We're going to talk about that too. You don't have to come out here. You can find a place. Some people can observe some things from their home. We'll talk about that. But you don't have to drive all the way. But you can come out here, particularly this time of year, and be home and in bed by 11 o'clock. You don't have to stay up all night. So open yourself up at least to Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, but be open to other days. The preparation hurdle. So you're into this and you think you're going to do this. And finally one night comes along, you say, well, maybe I'll get out this. Get out. It looks like it's going to be clear tonight. Maybe I should go out there, but you haven't got your stuff together, and you start thinking about all the stuff you need to take with you that you don't have. And that becomes a hurdle. So you got to have a resolution. You've got to open yourself to more than Saturday nights, and you got to prepare your kit in advance. Now I've got a bag, a little cloth bag that I've got my bug spray in and my gloves in and a knit hat and a turtleneck sweater and all these little items like that. So whatever time of year, I just grab that bag and I've got what I need in it. And then I've got another little case, and I meant to bring that in here and show you where I've got all my lights, and I've got my iPad that I use for my sky charts, and everything is in there. So all I got is got spare batteries, the whole thing. I grab those 2 things and I'm off on an impulse. So you've got to put that together in advance. So when the mood strikes and the night comes, you're ready to go and you don't have an excuse. Nothing standing between you and getting in the car and going. Spouse, verbalize your commitment. Now, it can't just be, this has to be a shared thing. This is real world stuff, right? So, because if you haven't said, I'm going to do some observing this year already, then when the night comes and you say, I might like to go, then you're going to have to go tell the spouse that you're going to go out. And sometimes that becomes her. It's better just to get it out of the way. January 1, New Year's resolution. I'm going to do some observing this year. So, and if your spouse hesitates about that, threaten to take up golf, and that should solve it. All right. All right. So, anyctophobia, fear of the dark. Some people, I think, would like to get out under the stars, but they're a little bit afraid of the dark. But that's the reason we share on our listserv when the members that are coming out here say, I'm going out, I'm going to open the observatory, so that these new observers can get out here. That'll cure your anyctophobia to come out here a couple of times, and so you realize there's nothing to be afraid of, and you get over that. And in fact, you get where you'd like to be out here by yourself or under the stars anywhere by yourself. All right. Step 2, education. Did it again. Education. Don't skip. This thing's slow. Don't try to skip learning the fundamentals. The fundamentals are the sky motion, some nomenclature, and the sky anatomy. Don't get hooked into the go-to scope trap. Get a book for beginners. Take the Observing 101 course. Rocky and I give that online. We'll be doing that early next year, a 3 or 4 night deal where we review all the nuts and bolts. It's free to club members. Do it. Get out and find your way around using your eyes, binoculars, or your scope, non-go-to. Now, why do I say non-go-to? Because the fun of this is to learn about the sky. And if you start out trying to tackle the complexities of a computer driven telescope. It's a distraction. Get out and learn the sky and then get the go-to going. Figure out how to make that scope go without using the go-to feature, just pointing it. And you'll be happier. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the go-to. It's just it's a roadblock to doing what you really need to do instead of being an asset. It gets in the way. And I've seen a number of people come out here and set up their expensive, complex telescopes and spend the whole night trying to figure out how to make it work, when they could be learning the sky. All right. Now, did I do it again? Yeah, sure did. Yeah. Means. Step 3, instrument selection and location. All right. The means by which you're going to do your observing. The best starter instrument is the one you already have, which is your eyes. Get out and find the bright stars, learn their names, make out the constellations, add binoculars, and then maybe the telescope. Use the club's instruments. You don't have to necessarily buy one. We've got large binoculars out here, and we've got several telescopes that are 2 Dobsonians there in the classroom that you can use. And there's nothing simpler to use than a Dobsonian. What, Rocky? Yeah. Yeah, we do. I've forgotten that. We have loaner telescopes, and then you can get telescopes at the library here. Location. So the River Ridge Observatory is open to all members at all times, but something closer might well open up more observing opportunities. A little driving can make a big difference. For Little Rock residents, I offer the soccer field and Section 13 City Park. These things are really, if you live in West Little Rock, are really close by. You know, the soccer fields, most of you know where those are, out by the Pinnacle Mountain on the highway up here. In fact, you drove by it. Section 13 is just a little further out Highway 10. It's an unused park. In fact, if we had more active members, I would be tempted to go to the city like the soccer clubs did and say, let us take over that property and turn it into and make a partnership with Audubon or the Wild Ones to make it a wildlife thing and a star urban sky park. But it's probably maybe 15 minutes from the Cantrell 430 interchange. And it's almost as dark as it is here. But
hey, Bruce, are there
yeah.
hours since it's a city park? Is that still do they have dawn to dusk hours, or can you go out there at any time?
You can go out there anytime. They've tried to put, it's a small park. They tried to put a gate on it, but they've given up. The 4-wheeler crowd breaks the gate down, and then they go in there and ride their 4-wheelers. But there's a little paved area for parking, which you can set your telescope up with, and it's probably about 4 or 5 acres. It's cleared. It's a nice little spot. So, but find a place near you. Country churchyards are good. Something that's not too terribly far away, so that it's convenient. And for a lot of types of observing, you don't need the darkest possible sky. And like I say, for some projects, and for some people, you can do this in the back of your house. And so think about that too. Something that you can do, which brings me to the program. You got to define an observing program. If you if you just say, well, I'm going to observe this year, that's not going to get it done. You got to decide some project that you're going to pursue. And the Astronomical League is full of projects. I don't know how many they got. Rocky, do you know how many they got now? Yeah, 60 or 70 different observing programs. Darcy's done this. She started out, she's done a bunch of them. And you can go on their website here, and they've got a chart like this. I just got a little piece of it. it goes down like this, and they've got difficulty, equipment, things that you need. And I don't know what they mean by style, actually. I didn't look at it that closely. But if you're a beginner right here, you can start, go down here and think, what looks interesting to me? And of course, as a beginner, one of the things you want to do is learn the constellations. I've got a program for that. Bright stars, variable stars, on and on and on. Finding opportunities. All right. So now you've made the resolution, you put your kit together, you've found you a location, you've got an observing program. Now you got to find nights, opportunities to go and do it. Become aware of the lunar cycle. If what you're doing requires a dark sky, then 2 weeks out of every month are out of the question. It's 2 weeks that you're boiling this down to. And that's roughly 3 days to 4 days after full through 3 or 4 days after new. That's your window. And so if you start to become conscious of what the lunar cycle is, then you know when in the coming month your window is going to open up to go observe it. And then you start tracking the weather. Of course, then there's club meetings and public star parties. And those are on our website. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this. You go to the website and you see our calendar there in a calendar format, the square with Sunday through Saturday up there and so forth. But there's an option to print it out as a list. So you just get the whole year's list right there in front of you, and you can make your notes and put it on your calendar. And then calendars of other special events. Sea and Sky and In the Sky both have good a list of what's going to happen in the coming year. In fact, at least Sea and Sky, I know, goes out many years into the future. You can look up 2025, 2026. But so on the weather, Astrospherics is my favorite. There's several weather platforms on the internet for observers, but this is my favorite, Astrospherics. And this is the cloud cover. This is transparency. That's seeing. Seeing is the stability of the sky. There's the stability of the air, which is important if you're trying to view things like the moon and the planets and see detail. It just takes you a few minutes to figure this out. And they give you a detailed forecast out for about 2 days. And then further down here off my screenshot, they've got 10 days worth. I think it's 10 days, at least a week worth of less detailed forecast. Word of caution, don't get too reliant on looking too far in the future. I mean, it's interesting. It's useful. You can say, well, it looks like a window's coming up, but don't let it mislead you, particularly if it's a partially cloudy kind of circumstance. They can be dead wrong 24 hours in advance. So, yeah, you would think they were perfect. He's a weatherman. All right. Yeah. Yeah. You just have to watch it. You pick your date out and you watch it. As in, if it works, it works. Okay. Record your observations. Okay. This is sort of a partner with having a plan. Well, if you got a plan, you've got something you want to do, you're going to do all the major constellations, then you want to write down that you did it. It's just part of the thing. And then later on, it actually be surprises, even though they're sketchy notes. It can be fun to go back and look at what you did later. And of course, if you are a member of the club and you're completing an astronomical league, you want to write it down so you can turn it over to Rocky, and Rocky can turn it into the astronomical league, and you can get your button and your certificate that you completed that project. All right. So epilogue, all that was just applicable to any kind of observing you were going to do, naked eye, binocular observing. But I want to spend a minute about telescopes, because I know there's a lot of members, novice members in our society that have telescopes that have never cracked the nut to make them work for them, and that they're up in the attic, like I said, because they've never quite been able to figure it out. And it's a lot like swimming and bike riding. You just need somebody to give you a few clues about the critical elements that once you get those, you're off and running. And it turns out it's not very complicated at all, but you need the help. Imagine trying to learn to swim. If you had never been a swimmer, imagine just going out and jumping in the water, you might well drown. And that's what happens with a lot of people get out with their telescope. Same thing with a bike. Remember you teach somebody to ride a bike, or when you did, somebody can hold you up there for a minute and just so you get the feel for what's going on. It's that simple. All right. But there's 6 steps. There's 6 hurdles to being to successfully learning how to use a telescope. The first is to set the thing up in the daytime and align the finder with the instrument. And you would not believe how many people stumble over that. I've been out here one night, fellow was new, and he had his telescope set up, and it was a fancy one. It was not only was a go-to, but it had one of these things on the side that's supposed to tell the scope where it is and polar align it and do all this for you. And but the problem is when he would look in the telescope, what it was supposed to be in there wasn't in there, and he couldn't figure out what the problem. Well, the problem was that finder that was taking the images and telling it where it wasn't aligned with his optical assembly. And so I said, well, you've just got to get a bright star and line this up. And he says, but I don't know. You can't know what you don't know, right? He didn't know when he looked through the telescope if he was looking at the bright star that he was trying to line up on. You can't know what you don't know until you learn to ride the bike. You don't know how to ride the bike. So you go out in the daytime and find a distant telephone pole or the top of a tree or a bird on a power line, and you line those 2 things up. And then when you're out there at night, you find that bright star in your guide scope, and it will be in your telescope, and you can look in there and you'll know it's in there. You say, oh, that is the star, and now I know what it looks like in my telescope, what a bright star looks like in my telescope. All right, have a list of very simple objects to find. The first one being a really bright star. Determine the field of view of your finder and your lowest power eyepiece, and create a way to see that on your chart so that what you're trying to do here is say, okay, when I look in the telescope, how big an area on my chart should I expect to see? If you don't know that, then it's hard to know what you're seeing and to verify what you're seeing. So what you do, figure that out, find that out. I think a little piece of wire, something like that. Or you can go to the store and buy these things that make circles. They're plastic things that got all kinds of different size circles on it. Some people use those, but you make a circle that will, for your chart, will show you exactly how big a field of view you're going to see in your telescope with your lowest power eyepiece. And so with that, you can then look at that bright star. You can lay that on the chart. Lay that on the chart. You can start seeing the other star, verify where you are, and then next thing you do is you nudge your telescope north or south, or to the east or west, and that way, because it's not going to lay out exactly. Then you know how to feel the telescope is lined north, south, east, and west, and you're in business because you know where you are in the sky, and then you know east with the telescope, north,
you do what we call star hopping. So if you want to see this open cluster here, you can find this constellation here eastern. You're in a decent dark sky. So if you put your telescope on this star link, then you move to this star, you walk it over, and you find, and that's how this works. All right. So now compare the pattern of stars in your field of view with the chart. Okay, do what I just said.
And you're in business. You're riding a bicycle. You know how to swim. You're a successful telescope user. You're not going to have any more problem. So, little note, how to figure out the field of view. You got to figure out the field of view. So you take the focal length of your instrument and you divide it, the focal length of your eyepiece, and that gives you the power, gives you the magnification you're using. And then you use the apparent field of view of your eyepiece, typically around 50 degrees, apparent field of view, and you divide that by the power, and that gives you your field of view. So if you've got a 40 millimeter, a 20 power arrangement, and you've got a 40 degree apparent field of view, then you're going to have a 2 degree actual field of view in the sky. Now, if you get some digital charts like Sky Safari, it'll do that for you. You enter all this in there, and it'll give you the circle, and it'll put it on the circle on your chart. All right, I'm about through. Well, actually, I'm about to change subjects. So that's the end of that talk. All right, next talk. Because we want to get people out, I want to talk about what we're going to be doing next year on our CAAS calendar. All right, so the club meetings next year are all going to be on the second Saturday of the month. In fact, that's the way it'll be from now on. The first 3 club meetings will be moonless nights. And then after that, the rest of the year, they're going to be first quarter moons. This will be the first time in many years that we've had partial moons on our club meeting nights. We're going to have 3 friends and family nights. Those are nights when you can bring your friends and your neighbors up and have special activities and a star party here at the observatory. On April 13th, we'll have a 32% moon. We'll break out the refractor and have fun looking at the moon. August 10th, the Perseid meteor shower, and October 12th will be the Fall National Astronomy Day. So we're going to do all those up here, and they will all be friends and family nights. Did you have a question? So then we're going to have some special club member only events. The Messier Marathon, March 30th, with a fallback weather date of April the 6th. That's when you try to observe as many of the Messier objects as you can in one night. And a fall camp out, October 26th. Public star parties, the Winter Milky Way at Lake Sylvia on March 2nd and 3rd. I don't know if we talked about that or decided it in the board meeting or not to schedule that 2 nights, but I certainly would think that it would be fun to do that Friday and Saturday night at Lake Sylvia. Lake Sylvia is out here about 38 minutes in the Ozark National Forest. It's now a state park, and it's got I'll show you here in a minute. It's got a really nice dark sky. Pinnacle Mountain, April 27th. It'll be the first time we've had a moonless star party at Pinnacle in a long time. National Astronomy Day, May 18th. Another moonless event on June the 1st. The soccer fields on August the 31st, where we'll have the Summer Milky Way will be in an advantaged position for the soccer field. International Observer of the Moon Night. We're contemplating, that'll be September 12th. We're contemplating doing that in two places if we get enough volunteers. Maybe in partnership with the Discovery Museum and Lehman Library were some of the things that were suggested. Yep. Yes, sir. Well, the eclipse is not a club event. Yeah, we're not doing anything for the special for the eclipse. Sherwood, in the Sherwood area, we're going to have a public star party October the 5th, and then Woolly Hollow, November the 2nd. And the Dark Sky Festival at Bear Creek near the Buffalo, September 26th through 28th. That's 3-night event. All right, a little advertising about Lake Sylvia. What's that 38 about up there? Oh, 38 minutes. Yeah, a 38-minute drive. You've got a sky that's a 21.7 SQM, a class 3 mortal sky, which is pretty doggone dark, particularly since it's less than 40 minutes from Little Rock. It's now a state park, and so this will be almost like going to the Buffalo, but right next door. And they've got camping, they've got a few cabins, they've got a group campsite, and it should be fun, particularly if we do it 2 nights. This is just the layout. We don't need to go over that right now. I'm going too long. So I already went over that. All right. Just a few highlights from some of the celestial events next year. April 8th, of course, is the total solar eclipse. May 6th and 7th, the Eta Aquariid meteor shower is got a favorable moon situation, and it's a pretty active shower. August 12th and 13th, the Perseids. September the 8th, Saturn's at opposition. September 20th, Neptune is at opposition. November 4th and 5th, the Taurid meteor shower. November 17th, Uranus at opposition. That's going to sort of be fun to find Uranus and Neptune. You can't see anything but a little blue dot, but it's still fun. December the 7th, Jupiter at opposition. So, as far as we know, we're the only sentient witnesses to the universe. Wouldn't it be horrible? The universe existed and there was nobody to witness it. And we're here, as far as we know, we're the only ones that we've found so far. So it's our job to be witness to what is. And it's great fun. Make it a New Year's resolution to get out and do it. That's it. Thank you.
All right, we have one more presentation here. Allan, do you want me to just leave this off of here? Or do you want me to mount it to it?
I've over a period of time, you've figured out that I do some stuff that's astronomy related, just to kind of enhance my knowledge of what's going on. And I use my 3D printer a lot to kind of educate myself. And so I've printed up a few things. I thought I'd just let you look at and see what it's like. Just as a novelty, I printed up my little astronomy gnome, and I put it on my desktop when I'm doing RRT stuff, so he keeps me straight. And I looked at him. I said, I got to give him a name, so I call him Bruce. Maybe you can figure out why. You can go ahead and pass it around, look at it. What Bruce was talking about, getting out and looking at stuff, the moon is sitting there just waiting for you, and it's, you know, just low-powered binoculars goes a long way towards being able to understand what's up there. And it's fun to look at. You can do it anytime you can see the moon. Go ahead and hold this for me if you don't mind. There's two things I printed up. One, you should be able to see this. This is Gassedny. Gassedny, is that right? Yeah. And it's located on the edge of one of the seas called Humerium or Humorum. It's got a lot of different things in there. If you look at it, you can see the way it's filled in, and there's a lot of cracks and everything when it was formed. And right in the center, you always, in a lot of these craters, you see those central peaks. And when an asteroid or some other object comes down and hits the moon, it's just like a drop of water. You get a drop of water and you see that central thing pop up. That's a rebound. And usually what happens is it freezes, you know, the metal or the rocks freeze in that position. So you see those central peaks. Well, the moon is not the only place that has it. You got Mars has a lot of the same features. And I brought both of these because I think it'd be interesting for you to kind of compare and contrast what happens with something that doesn't have an atmosphere and something that one time had one and probably had water. Because if you look on here, let me see which location, right here in this lower left part, you can see what looks like a canyon where water ran. And if you look at this one, you see a lot of cracks and everything. There's hardly any cracks in here. They didn't explain it to me, you know, when I was looking it up, but if there was water on here, perhaps that thing filled in with water and became a lake. And so it's all sediment. So any cracks and everything else have been all covered over. But it'd be something interesting to just compare and contrast them. The other thing I made was a toy that Darcy and Carl could probably explain a whole lot better what it's doing. But it's called an orrery, and it was first invented or developed back in the 18th century by some bright guy. He made it out of copper and wood. I made this out of plastic. But it's all 3D printed, and you print all the gears and everything else. And when you rotate it, you see the moon goes around the Earth. And you can see the new moon at any time. It's got a date, a calendar on the inside, and it's got a pointer right here, and it points to a specific date. And I did have it set up one time for the annular, and it did turn out that the moon sits like that between the sun and the Earth. And it's got some rings down here that I didn't know why they were so oblong. But one of them has to do with the orbit of the moon. It's either farther away from the Earth or closer to the Earth, and it's got a period of rotation that stays constant in the universe, except we're moving around inside it. So one of the rings you set for either you're close to the Earth or you're far away. And then the other one has to do with the tilt of the moon. So there's two different rings on here that keep changing. And it would be really neat if the central ball, which is the sun, had a light in it, so that you could actually, you simulate what is happening And with a little luck, you might be able to see a shadow on the earth. But a couple of things that happen on here is I haven't figured out how to firmly attach the crank because it keeps falling out. So if I try to glue it in, I'm afraid I'm going to glue it to the hole, and I can't move it. Yeah. Yeah, they show, but but it's fun. And if you crank it around into the past December, it actually has a year counter on here, so it'll click over to 24. So it's a fun little toy to play with. And I've learned quite a bit about the motions of the earth and the moon just by observing what it does and sitting there playing with it, cranking it back and forth. So it's a fun little toy. If you want to crank on it, kind of push in on the handle here because it will fall out. And if you joggle it real good, the earth will fall out too. So it's not fixed.
Thanks for the note.
Alan, was that all of them? Well, thank you very much for sharing all those items. For all of y'all on YouTube, sorry you should have been here tonight, because then you would have, it was actually show and tell, and you could touch the things. It was great. Got one last thing that I need to make an announcement of. Right now, what we have is the nominations that we'll be voting on next month at our last monthly meeting for 2023, which will be at Bruce's. Right now, our nominations for president is Michael Borelli, vice president Ed Swaim, secretary Bruce McMath, treasurer Jim Dixon, board members Carl Friedenhoven. Did I get that right, Carl? I'm sorry. I try every time. John Reed, Danny Flippo, Darcy Howard, Daryl Heath, Rocky Togby. And then, of course, there's floor nominations there the night of. So everybody, please come on out to the last meeting of the year. There's great food, great fellowship, and you get to learn a lot. Amazingly enough, even when they don't have scopes in their hands, everybody has something great to teach everybody. But on that, I'm going to wrap up this evening, and I hope y'all have a great trip home. And the sky's clear tonight, so go out there and peek up at the sky and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.